Yo, 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 we are back with another one. Ski's Opinion. This is the show about everything and nothing at all with your gracious and humble host, Ski. So, where we at? We're gonna jump right into this. So, first thing first, I'm gonna touch on the topic of 50 Cent's Diddy documentary. So we had to touch on this, you guys. Had to touch on it. Let me stop. No, we had to. Documentary was put together pretty well, I would say. 50 really did his homework. He really got the information and put it together very well. There's things in there, most of the things that's in the documentary we already saw, right? And was kind of privy to it. I will say that I saw an interview with my man, Gene Deal. And Gene, he told me he put a clip like, "You're welcome 50, right? Because Gene said he was supposed to be in the documentary, but something happened as far as with money or whatever. And 50 supposedly promised him something or whatever he was saying, and the director lady told him something different. But anyway, Gene had a problem with it, but I would say that a lot of the stuff that's on the documentary is on things that Gene spoke on already. So I think that he should have been a part of the documentary. I would say that because they did use so much of what he has already been documented. So whatever that situation was with him and the director, I don't think that it took away from the documentary, but I would also say that I think that Gene could have probably added to the documentary. I think he could have expounded more on some of the topics that he already been putting out there. So I would say that might have been a little bit of a mistake, but I don't think it affected the numbers that much to me. So I'm gonna say 50 bravo. I know everybody seen or heard with Puppy sent them flowers with a note. And to be expected, he's trolling, he coming back at 50 just, kind of put him on blast. In that documentary, I would have to break down a little bit of some of what I did see, and I didn't know. So, you had the one girl on there from Dirty Money, the group that he was in, the dark skin one, what's her name, Kalina. So she was on there, and she was speaking on her, interactions with him. And that how, it sounds like she still has love for Puff, even after asking Puff for $5,000, which is way here nor there, but asking $5,000 to help her get a better lawyer, right? So she can get her kids back. And he told her how he couldn't help her because he had stuff going on. Which, you love these people so much, Puff, and you so generous, and it's all about love and this and that, right? I'm not even gonna ask the question about why she didn't have the $5,000 to get her own lawyer, but I'm gonna say why you couldn't give her the $5,000. Like how you doing something else was gonna stop you from wiring over $5,000 to this girl that's like a drop in the bucket to your bank account with the thing that you have. So, and then to turn around and have to come back and ask her for her help, to speak good of you in reference to Dawn, the other girl, the Dirty Money in the thing, she was from Making the Band as well. And her take on her lawsuit or whatever that she filed against him. You supposed to speak to his character of that you never saw that, right? But so he comes back and asks her, and she's like, well, I have to look out for my family, this and that, but if I'm going through what I'm going through right now as well, I would have to think about it. So she didn't say no, and then it sounded like, and then but I see the sound like it was. She came out a little later, I guess, after speaking to a couple people and going over her options or whatever. She spoke out for him. And not really against Don, like I said, she didn't say it because she said something in the beginning, like they had this unspoken thing. She don't know what they was doing. But she could say that I never saw that. That's never been something that's been a factor in what she saw as far as her interactions with Diddy and Don while she's around. So she still spoke up for him. And then they had the little joke about Puff voicemail of, yeah, because I know if I die, you're going to jump in my casket because you love me. That it's just, I'm going to say this, Puff looks how Puff look and have been looking forever. This documentary just heightened it and put more of a spotlight on what type of person he really is. So I'm going to say this documentary, you could say, I got to give me another chair. But I would say that this documentary, right, is a decent depiction of the type of person he is. But like I said, it just heightens it. It just clarifies more of who you already thought he was, right? So with that being said, there's a lot of things that we can go into about that documentary that was very flabbergasting. And I would have to tie this into something else that I put down. I wrote this down. Diddy, the guy Kurt Burrow, said that Diddy had Biggie pay for his funeral when he recouped it or whatever off of Biggie. Because he said, well, we're going to have the biggest funeral in the world, hip hop, this and that. And then once he figured out how much it was going to cost, he started seeing the bills coming in. He said, yeah, we're going to have the biggest funeral, but Biggie going to pay for it. According to Kurt Burrows, right, you have the guy who was working with Big's mom at his estate, executive of his estate, come out and say that that was a lie. That it's nothing in the paperwork that shows that Diddy asked him for anything or took anything from out of Biggie's record, budget, or whatever to switch that. And then as far as him saying to switch the documents and he refused, and that's why he got fired. So he didn't have no one else to file those documents or rewrite it, change it up, the documents after he let you go. Because the people said that he never changed anything. They never renegotiated anything about his album or whatever. However the deal was structured, stayed the same. Oh man. From when Biggie was alive. So that sounds like it's a lie. So when it comes to Kurt Burrow, I'm going to say he's a lover's corn. The stuff he said Puppy had him doing. He said sexually and all this other stuff. But then, he was hiding things. He come up and down with a bag. Like, I'm taking my 25%. That's like a dude who bought his girl a car, that he come back and like, you better get my mom a car. Right? And take the car back from her and get her to stand over the title back to him or whatever. That's kind of how it sounds like with him taking 25%. I think Puff would have probably had to hit me with the bet, right? Which would have got me a lawsuit on top of that, and then I still would have my 25%. I need to be paid out on it. Bad Boys had to be worth about 100 to 200 million at that time. Kurt could have got anywhere between 25 to $50 million, right? So why sign it over, right? Because I'm going to give it back. And because you are his lover, Kurt felt like he was going to actually give it back. Puff wasn't giving nothing back. So they was able to bump, I guess, some of his story because we can't really say because Miss Wallace is gone. The kids don't know anything about the business that was happening as far as his estate. I would say probably until now, up to recently, because back then, the children, CJ was a baby and Tiana was toddler, so it's not anyone who can really truly speak for her. This guy's trying to say he is because he worked with her for years, but you can't really speak for her. But as far as paperwork and business, right, he probably can speak to that. I would ask for him to produce the paperwork, though. If it was me, if I really cared a lot, enough to find out if Puffy really had Biggie paid for his funeral, or did he swap out some things with the contract that made it look more favorable towards Bad Boys than it did for Biggie and his family, which is basically cheating them out of their money. So I'm going to swing from that to Manio and Academic. Manio and Academics, you guys are having some type of war right now, right? They're going through a step, you know, or whatever one might call it, right? Ax said something about Manio and Jim Jones and saying like Dave Beast, Fab, all of them are still trying to be young. He said that they need to even stop wearing pellies and, you know, Timbs and stuff, because they're trying to be like the young boys, right? And they should be starting to act their age more. They are grown, overly grown adults, and now you guys are still trying to hang on to this youth thing or whatever. With that being said, I'm gonna say Act has somewhat of a point, right? Because I said it, you know, some of the stuff that I hear them talk about and some of the things that they're holding on to, right? To me, sounds like someone is holding on to something that's gone, that you should be past, right, or beyond. And I said that, you know, some of the stuff I just noticed it with Jim Jones and all of that, and then I see how Manio and them lined up there. It's just some kid-ish to me. So I kind of see what he's saying to a certain extent. Now, on the flip side of that, I kind of see where Manio's coming from as well. I can't just knock what he's saying either, because there's a flip side to that. You telling his brothers to stop wearing the clothes that they've been wearing their entire life, started doing this or started doing that, and that's not who they are. You know, the average OG now, you may see with a pair of nice jeans on, a pair of Timbs, and a Pelly, or an Averex leather, you know, some type of leather, a nice little fitted cap. That's just how we rocking right now, you know. So as far as telling somebody what they need to dress or how they need to do what they need to do, I don't think nobody has the right to do that, especially academics, right? Because you don't have the room to tell anybody how to dress when you don't know how to dress. Like, are you serious? Like, come on, dude. You can't tell these dudes what style is and you don't have any, right? So him having an opinion on how they dressing is irrelevant to me, right? My thing with his sticking point is the way that they're acting, right? The way that you're acting like that it's still 99 to early 2000s, right? Y'all still popping when you're really not, you know, I wouldn't say relevant, irrelevant, but I would say not as relevant, right? You guys are legends. Y'all are part of hip hop. You should be happy for that. You should look at that as, you know, a sense or source of pride, right? You should have in that. Now, as far as accent, the acting childish, you know, they're doing things that's childish, and they need to switch it up and start acting more their age. I would agree with that. I think it should be something that's, you know, the people, you should be a baller at some point. You know, I ain't saying what you need to do or how you need to do it, but it should be some type of elevation. I don't see much with them. They still talking about stuff, like I said, from 20 years ago, you guys, and acting like it's still relevant now, today, or it matters. especially to these young boys. Like I said, these kids don't care nothing about what they got going on or what street-ish that they trying to talk and still make rather than make beats up. You guys are not that, you know. I'm want to say, again, on the flip side of that, academics, you don't have a lot of room when you do have questionable things on your background. With Manio putting out that video of you trying to coax that little boy into saying, yeah, he'll let some other man sleep with him, and you said, well, yeah, like, I didn't understand that conversation. I just didn't get it. I don't know what he was thinking. That was going when trolling goes wrong. No, but I don't know where that was going. And I don't understand the motives behind it, right? So, with that being said, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna stay tuned for this beat because it's getting entertaining. I saw something the other day, Ack was saying something about how these guys have never really been relevant like that as far as even in their rap career, right? Said other than Fab. He did give Fab that. But I would say, I don't know if I could say it's true because you can't really negate Jim Jones's contributions to hip hop with all the things that he's been a part of, right? So you want to speak on Max and say, Max, the wave guy, this and that. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Without Jim Jones, and people could say, well, without Cameron telling him to go talk to Jim, no, it don't mean that. You know, Jim could have said no. Cameron didn't help. He said he couldn't see it. He's saying it, you know, but he told him to go talk to Jim. If Jim didn't see the vision for Max and put him on, we have to say, you have to call a spade a spade. You have to. He's involved in the reason why it is a wave. So as far as, and now there's a wave in hip hop, that's an era. You can't say he's irrelevant to hip hop in that form of fashion. And so I've gave my brother Goofy at the moment, but I'm not going to take nothing from him because he's doing goofy things, right? You can't neglect his contributions as far as Dipset. What they did, what he did, as far as directing all the videos, getting them in the spots that they're getting to. When they didn't sign him, and he went over to Koch and made that deal, and then did Ballin', regardless if you want to say Max B wrote it, Stack Bundles wrote it, whoever wrote it, Ballin' was a hit. And it is a part of his hip-hop history. And guess whose name is on Ballin'? Jim Jones. So many people done wrote songs for people, right? And you don't know. Most singers get their songs wrote, right? And they're the biggest thing in the world, but they're not writing anything, right? So we're not gonna make it a problem where if somebody did give them help or even wrote the song for them, you know? I guess they sent us reference tracks out there with Max on it and Stacks on it or whatever before Jim actually recorded the record. So, but you cannot say that he didn't make a contribution or he's really he didn't make a real impact in hip hop. Can't just say Fab, you have to give Jones his to that. So, with that being said, let's stay tuned. Like I said, this is getting very interesting. I'm seeing